What's up? World Hockey Report coming to you live on April 29th. It's another Wednesday here in quarantine. Doesn't even matter what day it is. They all feel the same. 9:04 local time. Joined by the one and only Matt Nave hopping on the show this morning. Matt, how's it going?
This is the perfect opportunity to say same old, day in, day out, the same thing over and over again.
That's exactly what it's going to be like until we get sports back.
or jobs, other stuff like that.
It's overrated. Of course, the show brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use promo code 12OZ When you're making that first deposit, they'll match it up to $1,000. Mybookie.ag, promo code 12OZ There's still some stuff to bet on. I mean, come on, they got the online casino. You got a little bit of Asian baseball going on. I know the Taiwan league's going.
Yeah,
I think China or Japan's also going to be starting up. Not a big esports guy, but hey, there's a lot of stuff out there. Mybookie.ag, promo code 12OZ Already from the nation's capital, Matt Nafe joins us again. We got our mock draft up, 12ouncesportsradio.com. Wow, almost butchered that one. But we did a mock draft. We talked about, kind of what the draft could look like, because obviously there's a lot of uncertainties with how the teams are going to be lined up for the actual draft. We don't even know if they'll actually finish off this season. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, for how those bottom teams are, Matt, what's your thoughts on, where the Sens are sitting? Because they got a couple of picks here, and this could be huge for the future of the franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where if they go with how the draft lottery is regularly, the Sens will pick no worse than 5-6, because you move down 4 slots or 3 slots. Whereas they are also thinking of doing the old draft lottery, which is one pick, and the most you can move up is 4. And that would be hugely beneficial for the Sens because, I mean, only so many teams could get in. Obviously, they'd kind of expand the draft a little bit, having more teams involved. But let's say 20 wins the draft lottery, they move up to 16. It's inconsequential. But for the Sens, I mean, they have a chance of theoretically winning 1-2, as they're sitting point percentage-wise in second last and third last. And, having one of those picks move to 1 and getting what could be, a generational talent in Alexis Lafreniere, it's a good draft to have this problem.
And we are both in pretty much consensus that Lafreniere is going number 1. I don't think there's too many people.
6'5", 230-pound center, which is, that's a general manager's dream. Stützle, on the other hand, has played left winger, but at other competitions has played center. And, he's 6'1". He's a big kid, but he's the best skater in the draft. So you're kind of giving and taking. I mean, if I'm Detroit, you can't miss on either of them. But if you want that player in the league next year, odds are it's probably Stützle.
He's got that experience playing against men, and I would say that's probably the most valuable thing. You see a lot of the clowns, the idiots on social media, as I call them. They're they're going to say, oh, the Dell's not that good. It's not the SHL. Well, top to bottom, no, it isn't. But if you look at some of the elite players that do play in the Dell, they arguably get some higher talented North Americans than the SHL does. And the SHL is now becoming a lot younger and younger, with teams spending less in Sweden, those Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
Man, the Dell's producing some good talent. I mean, if you look at that big D-man that Detroit got last year, he was clearly, I would say, the best defenseman in the entire World Juniors. There was no question about it.
Yeah.
It was his name's slipping my mind right now.
I think it's Moritz Seider.
Yeah, Moritz Seider. He was unbelievable. He was the best D-man at the World Juniors, no question. He'll play in the NHL next year. If the Red Wings want him there, depends how bad they're going to be.
Yeah.
So if it's Detroit, I say they're going with Stützle, just because of that chemistry that they've got, his offensive ability. He's going to make a lot sooner of an impact.
Yep.
Which is something that you want out of these players nowadays, where those first 3 years of your entry-level deal are so crucial. They're massive. Whereas Byfield, I do think he's got that opportunity to be a generational player. But until he gets to that level, or until he proves to me that he is going to be that player on a general basis, it's kind of a tough one. I want to see it first before I say that he's better than Stützle.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people point to his World Junior performance, and I get it. It's one of the only viewings that a lot of people have of top prospects. But I mean, guys that who are amazing franchise players in the NHL have had bad tournaments. It's not anything out of the question. Plus, he's probably the youngest guy in the draft. So he's still 17. So he's got a lot. He's got a lot going for him. But he's like I see Byfield probably needing a year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the NHL next year, and because odds are it's probably going to be either Detroit or Ottawa. And if that's the case, then either team's going to get a great player.
Another interesting one, probably one that you got to see a little bit more than obviously me and others, is Marco Rossi of the Ottawa 67s. I mean, kind of an unorthodox style, where like last year he really didn't have that great of a year. And I mean, this year the Austrian really popped off. What were your thoughts on him, and where do you see him going?
He's going to be, top 8 type guy. That's like, I can see him going as high as 4. But as low as 8. I don't see him outside of the top 10. Because when I was able to get to some 67s games, he was the best player on the ice, and then it was Jack Quinn. And he was always just dominant. And sometimes you don't notice him as much, but he's doing things. That's the thing that kind of sets him apart. Like he'll finish a game with 3 points, and you're like, oh, I didn't really notice that. It's like, well, elite playmakers can do that. They're able to not be as flashy with their movements and their passing and getting into space, but they do it, and it keeps going. He's a center. And a lot of the reason he isn't higher is because of his size. He's 5'9", so he's not huge, but he's a tank. He's like he's been touted as like a skating refrigerator. He's so strong on the ice. And another thing that kind of holds him back is his straight line skating. He's great on his edges, really good, agile player, but he's obviously not going to be as fast as Quinton Byfield when it comes to a straight line race, because he doesn't have the stride. But he's a player that any team, like, he's probably going to be in the NHL next year. I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, he's a little bit smaller. The biggest thing, I know Byfield did miss some games this season, so I mean it's kind of a skewed number. But Rossi had like 40 or 50 more points than him.
Yeah,
like that's wild.
Yeah,
that's a huge chunk. I know stats aren't everything, goals aren't everything, but geez, like just to have that offensive ability. Wild. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Rossi going and playing in the NLA next year. I think that's probably better for him than going to the American League.
So I don't think he's actually eligible to go to the AHL because like the 67 still own his rights. So if he needs to be playing either in the NLA or in the NHL, and there's no real
difference. There's a loophole.
And otherwise, he can't play in the AHL.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
So, and he already made it known that this year was his last year with the 67s, which was kind of a ballsy move on his part. Before even making being drafted to a team. But one interesting stat that I have heard floating around about Rossi is that 75 of his points, or 75% of his points, came against the bottom teams of the league.
That's not a good look.
Fair, but I mean, you're going to eat up a game a guy like Nathan MacKinnon is going to absolutely dominate against the Detroit Red Wings. He's going to put up points against them. But he did have, I think it was a crazy stat, 30 points in 7 games against the Kingston Frontenacs. They're the worst team in the OHL, and he just ate them up.
Wow. All right, last one before we go to break too. Yaroslav Askarov. I got to ask you, I mean, you're a goalie guy too.
Yep.
You're a little bit higher on him than I am. I might be a little bit pessimistic just with, the whole right-handed catching, the whole Russian netminder thing. But in general, how early, how late do you think he's going to go? And what organization do you think he'd actually fit into best?
I've seen people say, he's going to go to New Jersey. They don't have any goaltending depth. And I'm like, are you forgetting about Mackenzie Blackwood? Does he not exist anymore? And Blackwood had a good season himself. I see Chicago picking him. They have the pick. They're probably going to be picking around 9th. And they have no goalie depth. No one of note that's going to come in and be the guy. And I actually was listening to a podcast yesterday called Welcome to the Carlson Years. It's a Sens podcast. The name is now very unfortunate, very rough. But they had a guy named Brad from hockeyprospect.com, and he's one of their scouts. And basically he said, Askarov, the best way to describe him is a 6'3" UC Saros. And UC Saros, if he was taller, he'd be one of the best goalies in the league with how good his movement is. Askarov is going to be a franchise goalie, no question about it. Him being at 19 in your draft, going to the Hurricanes, is a little crazy to me. He's not going to be there. I think if that was the case, the Sens would just trade up and get him. But no, he's going to be a top 10 pick just because there are organizations around that they're going to need a goalie, and badly, especially with Crawford's concussion history. So expect to see Askarov going into the top 10.
That's wild. I think that is insane to me. Honestly, I don't see it. I get it that the World Juniors is not a 17-year-old tournament.
Yeah.
He didn't impress me in that, and I get it. It's tough. It's you're playing against great talent. His Russian numbers are skewed because he's playing on always. He's going to be always playing on the best MHL,
Yep.
VHL, KHL teams. So his numbers there are going to be absolutely skewed. It's kind of man, Mikko Koskinen's had a good year, so it's hard to rip on him. But it's like his numbers, right? Like Mikko Koskinen last year was atrocious, and everyone's like,
Yep.
but at least he had a 940 in the KHL. It's like if you don't actually know the Russian leagues and stuff, I feel like all of your analysis is skewed, and that's why Askarov kind of gets to me. Where when's the last time we've actually seen a right-handed catching goaltender become a legitimate starter for more than 3 years? You know, you actually have to think back to that. It's
Yes,
tough.
Jonas Hiller.
Yeah, like I mean, Hiller, Steve Mason, are these goaltenders that you're thinking you want to draft for in a top 10 position?
I
I don't
mean,
know. I'm
I
not saying
think
you're getting Tom Barrasso here.
I think handedness is it's like it is what it is. I feel like I could catch if I was playing goalie. I could also catch right. Uh, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I just think,
That's why we're not in the show.
yeah, exactly. But going back to like the Russia thing, like sure you are right. He is playing on SKA, and he's going to be on a really good team for a while. But look at his numbers at the Ivan Linka Gretzky tournament. Look at his numbers against like on the world stage, other than the U20s, which he was starting as a 17-year-old, which is very hard to do
Until he got the hook.
Yeah, no, he did, and that's fair. But like he's facing Alexi Lafreniere, he's facing Quentin Byfield, he's facing Tim Stützle, he's
But those
facing
are his
Lucas.
peers. Those are the ones that I would expect him to be on par with.
Absolutely, and I mean, we all know we've had bad games as goalies, anyways. Like, I mean, 6 games is 6 games. I think personally, he's going to be a guy that he's a lights out goalie, plain and simple.
I've got him falling all the way down to 19 if the Canes don't trade their pick. That's where I think I just feel he makes sense in an organization like Carolina, who I don't know, is the clock running out on Nedlovic or whatever his name is? Nedeljkovic.
It's gotta be. It's
Close
gotta
enough.
be. I think
It's
he's had a lot of opportunity. Like they've had a revolving door at the goalie position in Carolina. So I mean they went for Scott Darling, then they went Peter Mrazek, they had James Reimer, they had Curtis McElhaney. Like there's all these guys that are now gone other than Mrazek and Reimer's the backup. Like Nedeljkovic, if he was going to hit it, he should be hitting it now.
if you can't beat out James Reimer or Peter Mrazek, I feel like you got serious problems. And I will give the Canes credit. They've got a good D core, and they've got some solid young offensive pieces, and that's why I think that they could take a risk here and going with Askarov. That's what I'll say. Alrighty, we got to take a break. When we come back, we got some more hockey stuff to talk to. There was the NWHL draft last night and tonight. That took place. Also, NHL news breaking from a little bit last night, this morning, whenever you want to go with it. It is the World Hockey Report coming to you live on 12 Ounce Sports. World Hockey Report live coming to you on 12-ounce sports. Good morning. 9:28 local time, Wednesday, April 29th, here in the Great White North. Joined by Matt Naif this morning. Had to break some news from last night. NWHL draft first overall selection. The Boston Pride took Boston Product. No surprise there. Sammy Davis goes first overall. Congrats. Kind of interesting to see Toronto trade away their first pick, but yet again, they got a plethora of talent up there in Canada to choose from. Not really surprised. Matt, I got to ask you, because, you know, this is something that's been talked about a lot. Is the NHL okay to push their season back until next December for the start? Because that's something that's being discussed. I think it's wild. I think it's crazy. But that's a serious conversation right now. What's your thoughts when it comes to playing out this season so long that you have to start the 2020-21 season in December?
Well, when it comes to sports and sports leagues, obviously, revenue only comes in when games are being played. And, you know, the NHL is no different than the NBA and MLB and the NFL. And, you know, they do have the trouble of being one of the lesser known sports. You know, don't be surprised to see the NBA say, like, oh, well, the league's done, like the season's over. And but I don't think the NHL has the ability to do that, just because, you know, they're not as profitable at this time as the NBA. And so the issue is now pushing it back to December. And then what does the next season look like? Is that, like, are you trying to get it back into the swing of things? And are you playing like 2 games a day sort of deal to get it, you know, the end of the season by April regularly? Or so there's obviously a lot of questions that are going to need to be answered. I mean, obviously, we'd all love to see hockey come back. I know I could probably speak for the both of us saying, you know, we missed the hell out of it. But you also need to realize, like, you know, sports might not come back for a while, and you might not be able to go watch a sport for a while. And it might only be viewable over TV. And so at that point, you have billionaires paying $1 million salaries to players, and the only benefit these billionaires are getting back is that their team is, you know, either moving up in the standings or moving up in the draft lottery. So do we start immediately with the playoffs? I don't think you do, but I think you maybe play to 72 games, and then, or you just say, here's a couple exhibition games so you can get in the swing of things. Here's the playoffs, and maybe you extend, like, open up the playoff number a little bit more from 16 to 20 teams, and a couple more teams have the opportunity to play for the Stanley Cup.
There's so many different options and opportunities that it really does throw me for a loop in a sense, because I really want to see the Stanley Cup given out like anybody. I really do. Yeah. But I want to find a feasible way where, if you're going to bring back hockey, if you're going to play regular season, that makes no sense, because, especially in front of no fans, because then the owners aren't the owners aren't making a dime, pardon me. And so why are the Detroit Red Wings going to want to play a hockey game, or like 3 hockey games, even 10? Why don't they just forfeit it so that they get the best draft pick? Like, keep your guys extra. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me at why these teams would want to come back. And before I ask, I got another question. We got this. We got to go. Hey, if you're hitting up 12ouncesportsradio.com, you want to freshen up that look, you got to go to the Our Store tab. Bunch of new stuff up there. Go check it out, 12ozsportsradio.com. Under the Our Store tab, fresh new t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, sweaters, whatever you're looking for. They got everything. Phone cases, the beach towels are unbelievable. You got to go check that out. 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. Go check that one out. Matt Naif joining us here this morning on World Hockey Report. Matt, I gotta ask you, because as a former player myself, I think it would be weird to win the Stanley Cup. You're saying 16 games. That's the thing. For playing best of 7 series, you get your 4 series. You want 16 games.
Yeah.
Are NHL players going to want to, play 7-game series, 16 plus games in front of empty fans, or is that going to be a burnout and the intensity is not going to be there? Because if this is NHL hockey and there's no intensity, which I really feel like half the game thrives off the emotion that the fans bring to it before any other sport, like the Seattle Seahawks 12th man is the only thing comparable to the NHL playoff atmospheres. Are these players actually going to want to play in front of empty stadiums for months and months on end, even not even see their families potentially for months and months on end?
Yeah.
Like, is this something that you think they're actually going to want to go forward with, or just general consensus, maybe we ditch the season and as much as it sucks, try again next year?
I think that's also a possibility where they just say, you know what, clean our hands of it and call it. But at the same time, excuse me, you could, shorten the series for the first 2 rounds. It goes from.
But then I'm afraid that you're gonna get the shit disturbers online going, oh, you got to put an asterisk by this season, it doesn't count, which I feel like people are going to put that anyways, which is a damn shame, because there's nothing the players or owners could actually do towards it. It's just kind of the pessimistic fans of the NHL. But, if you're going to shorten a couple of rounds, why don't you shorten them all? Why don't you do something different? Throw a curveball. As I said, I love the March Madness bracket style. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, that's not an actual Stanley Cup. Well, if you're already going to complain about it anyways, there's no point in sense bitching about it. And then having it different to begin with. Like, just do something different. Do something interesting. These players aren't going to want to play, 28 games, potentially, in front of empty stadiums. And, I don't know. Just doesn't make sense to me.
The empty stadium, that is true. You do lose a lot of the fanfare of a game. I will say though, I was one of the people who tuned into WrestleMania, and there wasn't anybody in the crowd. It was weird, but it was still sports.
Kind of.
And they had the highest views ever of any of their WrestleManias ever. I think if the NHL could sort of make this into like a pay for an NHL network subscription for the Stanley Cup playoffs, $10 gets you all of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Tell me, like, you wouldn't tune in to see all of that hockey for $10 as all of the games you want to watch, like, and you get, hopefully you're able to get some color commentators going, and hopefully those color commentators are Gord Miller and Ray Ferraro, and on top of that, you get to hear the sounds in the rink that you don't normally get to hear, and you get to hear
the F-bombs.
Exactly. And the NHL is a family-friendly thing, but they can't control what's going to be said, and it's going to be kind of a cool experience getting to hear what the players are saying, like passing for the pucks and so on and so forth. Like, at this point, my beer league games might be drawing more games or more fans than they'll be able to have, obviously. But I think sports gives you a reprieve from real life, and unfortunately for those athletes, that's their job. Like, they are an athlete, and they get paid to play sports, and like, first and foremost, their health is what's most important. So if the NHL and the NBA and all of these can find a way to make sure that the players stay safe and healthy, do it.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I mean, I just think that there's so many different possibilities, and I think there's been a couple of Montreal Canadiens. I think Philip Deneau was the latest that said, "Hey, if this means I got to be away from my family for 2 to 3 months, it doesn't interest me. Cancel the season." That's
Yeah.
that's the
and
thing.
that's totally fair.
Guys have lives. Guys don't want to be quarantined for 3 months, especially if you're not in a playoff spot or it's meaningless hockey, which arguably for the teams who aren't named Boston, St. Louis, maybe like your Tampas, the Oilers, like teams like that, it's almost pointless hockey. You're coming
Well,
back.
absolutely, especially for a guy like Philip Deneau. Like, the Habs aren't making the playoffs. Are you kidding me?
See, and that's my point. I don't like anything that's really been proposed right now, and I don't want to be a pessimist here. It just doesn't make sense to me. And honestly, what I would recommend, if I'm making a decision, is, hey, start training camps whenever you can. Let's make sure this can get done in a month. So guys, get on the ice, make sure you're in good shape. June 1st. The teams that are in playoffs, you're going to start playoffs now. The teams that aren't, we're just going to roll you back to 68 games. However you're sitting then is how the draft lottery is going to go. Playoff teams, top 8 each division. Sorry if you miss out by a point. Whatever. Should have done better in the regular season. I don't care. Don't cry about it. You don't need to cry to me about it. Like, hey, if you think that you deserve a chance because you're on a hot streak at the end, maybe play better at the start of the regular season. It's not that hard. It's there for a reason. So finish that off. And for the NHL teams that are in it right now, single elimination, one game. I get it. If you want a preseason game, gather your AHL team together, play against them for once. If not, everyone's in the same shoes. I don't care if you're rusty. Whatever. It's going to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit funner to bet on. MyBookie. Use promo code 120Z Sports. Throw that one in there. Matt, we're off to commercial. When we come back, we got a lot of fun quarantine stuff to talk about, including your favorite local beer, because that one took off. More so for the prairies, not Ottawa area, but hey, I'm sure you got a couple out there. This is the World Hockey Report coming to you on 12 Ounce Sports. It's the World Hockey Report coming to you live on 12 Ounce Sports. Cody Jansen with you, joined by Matt Naif.
How do you do?
You know what? Not too bad. 9:45 local time, April 29th here in the Great White North. It's quarantine. We're stuck inside, and we're loving every second we get to speculate on the NHL coming back. But hey, we got some really good news yesterday. I mean, anyone who's a part of the hockey world, this had to put a smile on your face. But Oscar Lindblom, geez, good one. Philadelphia Flyers forward. He's almost done kicking cancer's ass here, and I mean that's awesome to hear. You know, he's kind of running up here on the final rounds of treatment. That's that if that doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know what will. There's some things that are just bigger than the game in general, and this was easily one of them. So hey, just wanted to give him a quick little shout out. Alrighty, Matt, we got to talk one thing, because there was a lot of controversy that, I mean, I think we all know that our main sports network, we don't give them a shout out. But come on. I mean, they're trying to drum up some controversy here. And I mean, I get what they're doing. It's clickbait. It's whatever you want to call it. But to have Carey Price on the Montreal Canadiens all-time team over Patrick Waugh, that pissed off a lot of people. What were your thoughts on that? And I mean, if you got to pick a goalie right now for Game 7 Stanley Cup Final, are you going with Carey Price or are you going with Patrick Waugh?
Oh, I mean, prime Patrick Waugh was pretty unbeatable. I would probably go with him. I mean, yeah, I was very surprised to see that Patrick Waugh was left off that team. And I mean, it was let's be real, the Habs have had some pretty exceptional goaltenders. You know, obviously they had on the team Ken Dryden and Carey Price. They had Jacques Plante, and you know, who some consider the best goalie ever, Patrick Waugh. I was surprised to see that he wasn't there. Maybe there's still a little salty taste in the mouth of Habs fans, or maybe just that specific author's take.
But like, there was like multiple people voting on it and everything. And I don't know. I mean, experts, whatever, fans, doesn't matter. End of the day, like, Patrick Waugh is like literally like one of the faces of the Montreal Canadiens franchise, especially in net. He is, as you said, arguably the best NHL goaltender of all time. And I don't know. I mean, it's not that hard to make an argument that he was better than Marty Brodeur. So like, there's just so many things that come up with that. I think there was a lot of clickbait. I haven't seen the Calgary Flames one. You said there was a few interesting things, so we are going to have to check that out, of course. Man, I got one more question to ask you, though, because it's such a hot topic right now. But if you got to choose one starting goalie to come out of quarantine and just be dialed right in for the playoffs, who are you going with, or who are you putting your money on?
I'm going to go with Mr. Consistent this season, Tuukka Rask. He was, he was a Vezina caliber goalie all season this year. Obviously, you know, he is on the Boston Bruins. They're very good. But at the same time, he has just been lights out his entire career. And I can't say enough about how solid he's been. You know, he was very good in the series in 2017 against Ottawa. But, you know, Ottawa did actually beat the Bruins in 7 games and, you know, got the job done. Unlike another Ontario team that, you know, keeps losing to them. But, you know, I digress. Tuukka Rask, Mr. Consistent, that's who I'm putting my money on.
Interesting. I would go with Jordan Binnington just because I feel like nothing phases him, and like he probably like it's nothing new for him just to sit on the couch for 3 months and throw on the goalie gear. He'll probably like step in and just be the exact same, like nothing's changed at all. But That's something for another time. Already, we posed the question on Twitter. You can hit us up at World Hockey RPT on there. There was a little bit of interesting debate going on. Hey, not afraid of a beer, doesn't scare us at all. But we asked, what's your favorite local, not craft exactly. I don't like the word craft brewery because I feel like some of the things that people try to sell as craft beer is absolutely atrocious. But we said, what's your favorite, prairie beer, local brewed beer? And we got a ton of answers. I would read them all off, but I'll just go with a couple of my favorites from here. I don't even know if you've got them out there. But I'm a big Original 16 guy, big fan of that. Hey, they're at the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon. So, yeah, obviously a little bit of bias. I mean, go Rush, go. But, Original 16, unbelievable. Big Rock Brewery as well. I believe they're out of Calgary. They've got a great Czech-style Pilsner. Huge on that. Huge. Absolutely. I
love that.
Yeah, just great. There was a bunch of breweries from, like, Regina and stuff, which I've actually never had. I know it's kind of, like, picking up a little bit. But people are definitely going to that. Troubled Monk was another big one. I believe that's out of right here in Edmonton. Red Deer, not Edmonton. Close enough. But, I mean, that's another Alberta one that's starting to pick up some steam. It's decent. I'm not a dark beer fan per se, but that was all right. And, I mean, there's just a bunch of other ones. Honestly, even with, like, Kokanee, someone picked Kokanee. That's just a wild answer. Like, I'm like, oh, what's a great brewery? I really didn't even know Kokanee was actually brewed in the prairies. So that's in the mountains. That's an interesting one, and a ton of recommendations for Nation beer. This is it's made up in Slave Lake, and I don't know. I've never actually seen it in stores or anything. I've seen a bunch of people posting about it now, but it's kind of an interesting one where Oilers Nation is really taken off in the whole blogging journalism world, things like that. And so maybe I will have to try it. Maybe it's something I kind of seen as like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like maybe a little bit, not cliche, whatever the word, quirky. That it's a beer. It's kind of like Pink Whitney, like a lot of hype around it. But is it going to be all that good? Yeah, I mean, you can have your opinion there. Actually, Nation Beer, Dog Island Brewing out of Slave Lake. Got to give them a quick shout out. Matt, I got to ask you though, is there anything legit up by Ottawa that people should be hitting up?
Absolutely, there are a lot of breweries around Ottawa. I'm lucky enough to actually play on a team with two guys that work for one of the breweries, and we had a big win, and they so happened to bring some beer from there, and that's Dominion City Brewing in Ottawa, Ontario. Fabulously run, great guys, and right now they're delivering to people. If you need beer and you don't want to go out, they will drop it off to your house.
That's legit. That's legit.
Yeah. We have a couple others.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wednesday, April 29th episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one and only Philly Pete. And we are live on 12 Ounce Sports Network alongside Zingo TV as well. This show, as always, is sponsored by MyBookie. Live sports may feel on hold to us all, but that's not the case with MyBookie. They've got tons of action for you to get in on the fun over at mybookie.ag. Whether it's esports or overseas baseball is your thing, they got you covered when you use the promo code 12 Ounce Sports. That's 12OZ Sports, all one word, when making a deposit. They'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. That's pretty darn good to me. Don't feel like watching baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning? I know I'm sleeping for the most part. MyBookie has you covered with an online casino to scratch the itch, whether it's blackjack, roulette, three-card poker, whatever you name it. Go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code 12ounce sports, 12OZ sports. Once again, all one word. Do it today for free money when making your first deposit. Also, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summer, you have to check out 12ounce sports new line of clothing. We've got everything from shirts and sweaters to beach towels and phone cases. Beach season is right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Find the store online today at 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. There you'll find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, sizes that will suit your style like Ric Flair. That's 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab, and look forward to that. Also, Seat Giant as well. Once again, whenever fans do decide to come back into the games when we're allowed to do so, please get your first row view of your game when you use Seat Giant. And last but not least, Zingo TV. When signing up for an account with Zingo TV, please make sure you all use the promo code 12OZ. That's 12 ounce, 12OZ, all one word, and you all can be streaming all these beautiful shows live that we can provide to you and entertain each and every one of you out there during this pandemic. And there you have it. So yesterday, I spoke about the Eagles draft pick. I talked about the NFL draft in general and NHL updates as well in terms of where they might be going. Tomorrow on this show, I'm going to have Gina back on for the second half of the show. We're going to talk about the season finale of Westworld in the first or second segment. I haven't decided yet. And then the other segment, I want to talk about the updated Last Dance episodes 3 and 4 of Michael Jordan's documentary. So stay tuned for a phenomenal show tomorrow on tap as well, only on Pete's Power Plays. So today, we're going to change it up a little bit this time. We're going to talk about a movie that we saw last night. We wanted to give a review. Basically, a movie that Gina and I have been wanting to see for a while now, and it is Bad Boys for Life. We're huge on that series with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence coming back in for a so-called one last time deal. So without further ado, I want to introduce her back onto the show, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together for the one, the only, Gina Tucci. Welcome back, Gina. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How has everything been going? How was your weekend, obviously?
Good. It was really good. It was nice and definitely a good change.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got nicer weather now. We're going to be hitting the 70s over the weekend, which is going to be nice. So a lot of activities for us to do. But thanks for being a part of the show again, and let's get it started. So, we have Bad Boys for Life, directed by Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. What can I say? Another incredible cast that we have here. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence. Then you had a different change of scenery here with the Ammo group. When you had Vanessa Hudgens, you had Alexander Ludwig, Charles Melton, and Paola Nunez, who's also in the recent Bad Boys. And now they all have formed a team here. So basically, we start out. If first off, how crazy was that opening scene with?
It was. It really was.
Yeah, so in the beginning we get popped off to a runaway Porsche, and here's none other than Mike Lowry and Marcus. So it's pretty funny to me that right off the bat they're getting chased by cops, and what better way to start off this trilogy than something crazy like we wouldn't expect. But what can we say? It's typical Will Smith and Martin Lawrence doing their typical funny moment movie stuff. So. Then it turns kind of dark, like within the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain that?
Well, they were out celebrating Martin Lawrence's character becoming a grandpa. And it looks like along with him and Will Smith, it was their whole team, I guess, at like a bar, just kind of congratulating him, giving him a cheers. And then they want to do a race. I guess they were, feeling good, and they just said, like, hey, I could beat you in a race. And the other one said, no, you can't. And it turned a little bit funny, and then they see them outside, doing a race. And then you see Will Smith's character get shot. I mean, that really came out of nowhere. And then I was thinking, wait, the movie just started. I don't remember hearing if he dies.
Yeah, really.
But I mean, they really made it seem like he was gonna die, and it was. I was shocked. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I mean, well, I got like shot 3 times in the chest, and that was just really shocking. And but then he slowly recovered, and I'm glad they didn't put too much emphasis on that. They just kind of got right into, of course, his character wanting revenge, and of course, they don't want him to come on because it would be a conflict of interest. And then, but he's Mike Lowrey, and he doesn't back down. So he gets hooked up with this ammo group, which I liked how they did this. They made this ammo group, use a lot of technology and cameras and just recognition of the motorcycle that the suspected killer was riding. And then it kind of goes back to how it contrasts with their like old-fashioned police work, because a pivotal point in the movie was when they were surveillancing the meeting of those drug dealers, and they saw the one kid like wipe his nose, but he had a bag in his hand, and Mike Lowrey was like, "Hey, that bag's not full. Like, he wouldn't be able to do that, and that's not really something that you would expect those ammo people, the surveillance team, to pick up on." But again, that was their recognition of the old-fashioned police work.
Yeah.
And that comes into play later on in the movie too.
Yeah, so like Gina mentioned, I mean, you get right off to the bat, Mike getting shot 3 times by the potential, killer that's been given these instructions, and lo and behold, you get to realize that, the mother of this kid is setting all these standards for him to basically, because in the previous Bad Boys, the father of Armando Aritas is his name, and his real name is Jacob Shepio in real life. And then you get involved with Isabella as well. So Isabella and Armando, mother and son, trying to basically they print out a few people that are on their hit list, and what they want to do is basically ruin their lives and kill them. That's all they want to do is just kill them, and just basically of what happened to their father. So at least from what we think is what happened there. And the last person that they are targeting is Will Smith, Mike Lowrey's character. So right off the bat, like she said, he's shot off right away, gets into a hospital, going through rehab. Mike's going into the church. Mark is going to the church, praying to God, just please. I've had a lot of luck lately with everything, but this is my main friend. Like, this is my best friend. I don't want anything to happen to him. Please give me a sign. And then yada yada, and then things evolve, and Michael is back into full form. Like Gina mentioned with this ammo team now, Michael is supposed to monitor situations and watch. They didn't even want him to come back on board, and so obviously with Mike, that's not his memo at all. He wants to get back right into the action, and once they use the drones, I mean, I feel like I see drones every day now between Westworld, and now you're seeing them in Bad Boys. We were mentioning that last night. How this must be Dolores's drone.
Yeah.
From Westworld, but. All this technology nowadays is obviously playing a factor in all future films and shows. So, this is where we're going with our lives. And, he already knows that, like she said, there's nothing in the bag, and he wants to go already. He's ready to rock. He's ready to go in and start shooting people. And of course, he comes back and he kills one of these guys that played a big part.
That they were supposed to get information out of.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, that just didn't happen. And, that's just it's just right from the start. He kind of screwed things up, and that's not where you want to go. So, however, how about the time when when we just thought that things were going to get worse? We see Mike and Joey Pants' character, Captain Howard, at his daughter's basketball game outside, and talking about having dinner with the wife afterwards, and then all of a sudden. What happens?
He gets shot. Like the boss, Joey Pants's character, gets shot from a sniper. And I mean, I read about that he dies in this movie. But that was really graphic. I was not expecting it at that moment. I knew that I knew his character died, but I honestly was not expecting it at that moment. And I think that was, obviously a pivotal movement in the movie for Martin Lawrence's character to really be on board to go back and do this one last time. That was, pretty much the turning point in the movie. I want to go back and go over the scene where the mom escapes from prison. How crazy was that?
Yeah,
she
right.
starts a raid, kills a police officer, and I guess all the women came around too, and they all have little pocket knives too, and they're all like stabbing the woman police officer because the mom is in jail and she breaks out of jail, but she, I guess, quickly changes into the guard's uniform and lays on the floor like she's the guard. So and then the other male guards pick up the female guard and put him into the ambulance. And then you realize that it's not really the guard; it's this woman escaping. That was really awesome.
Yeah,
that escape. Because you were like, oh wait a minute, what's going on? Okay, they're taking the guard away. All right, and then it's like, oh, it's not. Oh my! And then from that scene, she's a badass.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she was saying some sort of prayer beforehand when the cop turned her around, and she stabbed her, and now she's an apparent witch, quote unquote. So then that's when you get introduced to obviously now you have two assassins in the making. Now you have Isabel and you have Armando, obviously, and here you are. I mean, these two people are basically in the hunt to look out for Mike, and that's who they want last to digest what's about to happen when those two step involved. And then you also get introduced to DJ Khaled's character who plays a butcher at a meat shop for if you want some homemade nice fresh ribs, by all means you should hit up that restaurant down there in Miami. But all jokes aside here, Manny is his name, who's portraying DJ Khaled. It's funny because you don't really see much of DJ Khaled anywhere. I mean, music, obviously, he's a big asset to the music industry. However, movie-wise, I can't recall him ever being in another movie, unless if I'm drawing a blank. But for the 5 minutes that he was in, I thought he acted pretty darn well. Unfortunately, the other side of that, getting his hand pretty much stomped on by like a meat ratchet. I mean, that's gonna hurt.
That looked like it hurt.
It looked like it killed. Yeah, I mean that's a broken hand all over the place. But for his 5 minutes in the movie, portraying a rib butcher, I thought he did pretty well, give or take, giving Mike some information about where to find. Zuelo is the name. He goes by Nicky Jam in real life here, and he is basically the sidekick to Armando. So, and what better way to basically start the manhunt of this guy than, finding him in a club, I believe it's called Zillion, I think it was, and they basically get rock and rolling in there. And, before I want to get into that, you start seeing, we know that Marcus has a grandson now, and, he doesn't want to do anything anymore.
Right, he wants to retire.
And then you see cuts of, Mike working out and ready to get back in the action. And then you see Marcus basically doing some sort of like breathing assignments and all,
He's literally in his robe on a recliner. Like, I'm not doing anything and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, so
kind of like what we're doing. Kind of like the quarantine.
Yeah, basically. So it's kind of funny here. And then, like I said, so they get there's a point in the film where, Marcus and Mike are like, all right, let's do this one more time. There was a scene where Mike caught up with Armando in the ever so popular bike attire that he was wearing. He opens up the helmet and realizes that it's him. It's the kid that shot him. He gets away, and then after that, Martin Lawrence's character, Marcus, being all, pop worthy now, and driving the soccer mom van, and you see a body flying onto the van.
Yeah.
That's when you know that the turnaround for Marcus is like, okay, screw being at home. I'm done with this. I'm getting bored. It's time to get back into the action.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on that.
It was funny because they mentioned how he says, like, why are you picking me up in Teresa's car, in his wife's car? So you figure out it's the wife's car, and he's like, I'm just running an errand, and so. And then you see this body fall, and then he was like, oh, Teresa is not going to be happy with you. And, it's funny that he makes fun of Martin Lawrence's wife's character in the movie. That's kind of a bad boys theme, which is funny. I mean, because he's, supposed to be this badass cop, but yet he's definitely afraid of his wife.
And then he drops off little Marcus, into the spa.
Yeah, well, his wife, the grandmother, is trying to get like a spa day because she's been taking care of the baby since he's been born. So he wants Martin Lawrence wants Will Smith to drop off the baby while she's getting her massage, and then so they can go investigate. So basically, she can't even get up and fight him, and then you find out that he left him there. And they find out he forgets to give her the baby wipes. So, he's really in the doghouse after that.
Yeah.
It's good. I like when they touch on that comedy with them, too.
Yeah, it's always good. I mean, we haven't seen Bad Boys movie in quite a while. And now that, they're a little bit older now in life. And, it's funny because this is like the actual situations now. You have grandpops watching, their kids' children, if God forbid if we're working and, if there's not a lot going on, you could rely on the grandparents to always help out. And this is a very, it's a very touching moment in the movie because, it's actual real life world.
Yeah.
And so that was a good point of the movie. I like that as well. And then once Marcus and Mike reunited one last time, you get the fist pump and they're ready to get back in the action here. They go into the club. They start hunting down Zuelo. We know it's his birthday, and they have everything set up, ready to go. And man, he's not like an in shape sort of guy, but he did play sports because I believe he played basketball for none other than Marcus. Marcus was the coach of his basketball team back in the day. And so
right.
That was pretty funny when he escaped. He was like, "You ready to get arrested?" And he's like, "Nah, not today." So he leaves, and then the action is on. You see basically, Mike's like, this is kind of like the 180 moment of the movie where, Mike basically tells Marcus about the situation with Isabel and Armando, and he basically reads up on them and saying that, he had a thing with Isabel, and they ran away, and Michael knocked her up and
had a baby,
and out comes Armando, the assassin himself.
And Martin Lawrence's character Marcus says, he's like, I knew he was related to you by the way he whooped your ass, and that was actually really funny. That was a funny part of the serious part of the movie, which you can always count on for Bad Boys.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and how about when was it Sway? What's his name? Zuelo. Yeah. When Zuelo was getting away, he was on the motorcycle on the freeway, and then you see this helicopter where the killer is, the young man. And then they drop one of those the rope ladders, and the guy just kind of reaches up, and they pull him away. I thought that scene was really, really cool. Like the chase scene, and then that's how you think it ends, but it really doesn't. And then, then it turns out Mike Lowry's character gets onto this ladder, and of course they're flying. Like they have the helicopter with the rope ladder and two people hanging on it. It was really intense. It was funny. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of comedy between the two. And remember when they go to that one perpetrator's house, and they thought it was like a tax guy, an accountant, and it was this cracked out fat white guy in a wife beater and boxer shorts, and Martin Lawrence is trying to talk him down. And what did he say? He wants to pierce his soul with his words.
Yep, basically.
And basically the guy on drugs just beats the shit out of him. It was great. And then he's like Mike Lowry was like, Can I beat him up now? And he's like, yeah, after Martin Lawrence has like a bloody face. It was really funny. I mean, anybody who knows anybody on drugs, like, you just can't reason with them.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. And then like that was a funny part too. You know, they're just trying to, you know, he's like, "You sure you want me to kill him?" Mike says, and then Marcus, being like the grandpop that he is,
Yeah.
trying to, you know, be civil with people. He just gets his ass kicked, and Mike's like, "Okay, you sure?" You know, and then in comes Ammo, and in comes that group coming to help out, and then like Gina mentioned about the highway scene with the helicopter, and you know, they have Zuelo in the back seat. He has a nice little another funny. Listen, this movie was I thought it was action packed. I thought it was very very. It has some comedy scenes in it, which was great, and it's what we expected for a Bad Boys movie to come out, let alone the third one. And remember when Zuelo had the bump on his head?
Oh yeah, after he got hit with the rubber bullet.
Yeah, the rubber bullet, and Marcus he's like, "Oh man, this looks good." He's trying to like pop it,
yeah,
like playing with it, knowing that it would like interrogate Zuelo's character, and it was just so funny, like doing just all the side comedy stuff, doing a serious take on a scene. You know, it's what really keeps your head on this film, and that's why I did like everything about this. And you know, you get to a point where you know, it gets serious. Mike hits up on the ladder because after all, it's his fight now. He doesn't want no one else involved. We still have Armando shooting Zuelo, and that basically kills off his character. Mike goes into the ocean where he swims off, and now you get to the nitty gritty part of the movie where it's time to go to Mexico City and take care of the cartel that we have in Armando and Isabel, and you know, what better way to go? Then you get to a comedy part on the scene where they're on the airplane, and lo and behold, who's joining Michael?
Marcus.
They can't be separated whatsoever.
Yeah.
You really can't. And then I'll let you elaborate on it, but then they get into, you know, where they're staying, and next thing you know, who comes through the door to help them out?
The Ammo, which was nice. Because it's nice because it kind of brings them, the technology people, back to old-fashioned police work, which is, we know what Bad Boys is all about.
Yeah. So, you know, it's basically, to me, like a couple of reviews, you know, I just want to talk about is that before we get to the ending scene here. Well, first off, I will talk reviews later, but we get to the point, you know, they set up shop, and you see Ammo doing their thing, technology's working, they get the drones ready to go, and you know, Michael goes in, meets up with Isabella. Pretty much she says how much of a traitor you were to her and her son, because he ran away from her, and you know, here we go. You know, it's the final scene, the last 20 minutes of the movie, where it's a full-on war zone, and like I said, you see, you know, her side coming in finally, and then they drag on to I think Isabel notices the necklace on Michael's neck, that it's probably a camera.
Right.
So she basically rips that off, and she says, "Now it's us two."
Mm-hmm.
So there's no one else involved, and it just starts kicking off from there. Ammo comes in, Isabel's squad comes in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Armando at the end of it as well, taking action. So a lot going on at the end here. What was your take on that final scene?
Well, first of all, I loved her dress because it was a leopard print, low-cut dress.
Shocking.
So I
Shocking.
really wanted to say how she had very pretty outfits in that, and I really enjoyed the last scene. Not only because of her outfit, but it had a lot of, you know, gunfire, a lot of fire in general, and it had, you know, you always see Mike Lowry's character being all, you know, tough and fighting and shooting, but he doesn't fight his son. Like there's this the ending scene where his son's basically kicking the crap out of him, but the son doesn't know that that's his father. He thinks it's another male. But So you see Mike Lowry saying, like, I'm trying to pierce his heart with, or pierce his soul with my words, or something like that, which is so unlike Mike. And what else? And then the ending scene where he gets the young kid Armando gets accidentally shot, but he saves it. They save him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So getting back to that last scene. I mean, you had the final cut where it's Michael and Armando, and they're fighting each other. He's trying to explain that I'm your father, and he's not. And Armando's not taking it whatsoever. He wants to throw him down the hellhole that's burning up on the bottom of the floor after the helicopter blew up. And then you see Isabel by herself, and Armando wants questions. I mean, what son that doesn't know their father?
Mm-hmm.
They want questions of who their actual father is.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole time, Isabel was lying to him, saying, your father betrayed you. And he wasn't a role model for you. He wasn't there for you. He left you. And then you see Armando kind of teary-eyed. He was starstruck that he finally met his dad. And in you come and you see badass Rita, Paola Nunez character, saying if he's not going to kill her, I'm going to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in without notice. I had no idea. Pops her, and there you go. And you see Isabel's character basically burn into the flames of the fire. Rita saving the day for Mike. They have a heart for each other, and you get to a scene where you see his Marcus's daughter and the husband and her husband get married, and they have a party and everything, and Michael gives Marcus him and his wife a little away weekend sort of situation where he's going to watch the baby with a little getaway with the help of Ammo. And then you see a little foreshadowing part with Rita and Mike there where Rita says you look good with the baby on you, and Mike's like, do I? And they're going back and forth. So at the end of the day, they love each other, and that's a good way to start there. But how funny is it that Ammo was like, oh yeah, we'll help you. But then, go ahead, explain that.
But then they were like, oh yeah, we'll help you, Mike, with the baby. And then when everybody leaves, they leave too. And he's like, wait, where are you going? They're like, nope, we're good. We got to work. So it's kind of funny putting Mike Lowry's character with a baby. That
is funny, and it was a good way to end the movie. And then you see the credits come up, and then you see a little part to it. This kind of confused me in a way, but it was kind of foreshadowing as well. We know that there's going to be a fourth one, but when Mike and Marcus said one last time, I kind of figured that this would be the conclusion of the Bad Boys series. But for me, as a viewer of the movie and what I thought, to me, it just makes me think that maybe Marcus is actually done, and you get to a cutscene where Armando is in a jail cell. Dressed up in orange. Mike comes in there and basically says, you ready to rock? Like, you want to do this?
Yeah.
And then Armando gives him a head nod like he's ready to rock. And to me, that makes me think that, Bad Boys 4 is going to be in the near future.
It kind of put the thought in my mind as well that, hey, we're open to a sequel, or another sequel, I should say.
Yeah.
But we can, maybe not. So.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I recommend this movie to everybody. It's just a refreshing new take that's more deep than anyone that could have anticipated it to be. The sequel just keeps intact the dynamics of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's characters, but also adding more depth to their arcs and to the story as a whole. So basically you mix that in with the overall action and obviously the humor, as I mentioned earlier, and you've got yourself a brand new batch of Bad Boys to come. So, again, in the future, you might see a Michael and Armando reunion for Bad Boys 4 with a possible cameo with Marcus, but maybe there's going to be a trio in the next one with them three working together with Ammo. Time will tell, but I love where this story is going. G and I have been phenomenal. I've been amazed by the Bad Boys that we've seen, and that's basically our review. Anything else you want to talk about within the movie, G?
It's definitely worth it. I thought it was really fun. It was, like I said, it had action, it had comedy, and it really kept my interest.
Good. All right. Well, that basically wraps up the Wednesday, April 29th episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only Philly Pete. And the sidekick to him is, of course, the lovely Gina Tucci. Gina, anything else you want to say to the Twitterverse fans out there?
Just wanted to say thanks for listening. I hope everybody's having a good day as well, and weekend is coming soon.
Yes, so thank you, Gina, for being aboard again. Ladies and gentlemen, she'll be back here tomorrow as well for the one of the segments I will have tomorrow in discussion of the Westworld season finale, which is there's a lot to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen out there, have a great, great Wednesday. Enjoy your days. I will be back tomorrow. Take care and goodbye.